Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Hello, I am your host, Moog. I had a pretty good week. I kind of bought a house. Yeah. I didn't totally buy a house. It was a we situation, so I'm not that successful that I can just go off buying houses, but I'd like to be. How are my weirdos? It's my birthday this week. It was excited for me. I will not tell you how old I am. You just have to figure it out. I feel like I have the voice of a 20-year-old, maybe a 16-year-old. Okay, maybe not. But I don't think the voice is a good way to tell because it can be very deceiving. I think if you just based it on voice alone, you would think I was younger than I am. Not that it matters. I think the whole point of this is that it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me this week. I'm going to be 72. You would have never guessed. So much is going on in the world. Going to give you some headlines, some more recent stuff going on, such as the deck that collapsed in Malibu and killed everybody. Okay, it didn't kill anybody. We will also be talking about NASA, which may have accidentally brought life to Mars, where there is no life, and I assume should be no life, because that's the way it's supposed to be, and we should not be tampering with Mars, perhaps. Also going to talk about the whales of Wall Street, the whales who basically control our investing in this country. It's so great. Let's talk about whales. I basically am talking about things all the time that interest me personally, and just hope that there are like 3 people out there that are also interested in these things. I doubt there are 3 people out there. One might be my mom, who I have never told that I do podcasts to. Can you imagine? There's all kinds of moms. There are super critical moms. There are super supportive, overly, let me help you do everything moms. What would that be, like helicopter or doting or overly codependent? I digress. There are so many types of moms in the world, and I am 100% certain if my mom ever heard this, she would be like, "Oh, it's great. Well, why don't you do this? Well, why don't you do this? Well, I don't like what you said about this." It wouldn't be like, you're a loser. Why are you doing a podcast? What's wrong with you? It wouldn't be like overtly critical, but it would just be passive aggressively yet another thing for make me to feel some rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria. So I'm just not going to do that. Yeah. Maybe someday I can tell her, "Hey, Mom, I have a podcast. You are welcome to listen to it. It might not be your style. It's not the most interesting podcast in the world. I never have any guests. I never have any callers. I just talk about random things that are only interesting to me. You may listen to it if you just say, 'Wow, great podcast,' and that's it." It doesn't make for an honest relationship. I don't know if it makes for a close relationship, but it makes for a tolerable one. Cool. Moving on with the rest of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about Turtle Island, which you may not know is actually the United States of America. Actually, no lying. It's North America, which includes Canada, United States, Mexico. Yep. And we're going to be talking about Turtle Island and the origins and what all it means and why do we not call it Turtle Island? What's going on there? You're going to learn. Tic-tac-toe, my favorite. And we're going to round out this show today with the weirdest foods ever offered. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like worms in a salad. I think it's just going to be like, why did they think people would go for this particular product? So maybe it's not the weirdest foods ever, but it's the weirdest like marketed foods. You could eat a witchetty grub in Australia, and that's pretty weird, but I don't think they market witchetty grubs. And yes, I'm once again bringing up Australia. I'm beginning to understand I might be slightly obsessed, and I might need to look into that. Make a note for my therapist. Why am I obsessed with Australia? Simple answer, because my family lives there. More complicated answer? I don't know. I'm going to tell you this. Why not? I once was talking to a therapist, and literally he said, "Well, it all starts with your dreams." And he told me, this man in like the year like 2019 maybe, that all of our like mental problems or all of what's really going on with us just literally starts in our dreams. And so just to talk about my dreams, to figure out my dreams and go from there, and like that was what was really going on with me. And I'm like, is this 1934? Did Freud just invent himself? Like, what? It was so weirdly like old school basic psychology stuff that I was so thrown off. This could not be the current going opinion of how life works. And actually, I might Google that and add it to the end of the show. Yeah, I think I will. Are dreams really all we need to look into to kind of find out where we're at, or what we need, or what our problems are? We will discuss that in the final segment of today. Officially, it's been decided. So we are going to move on to the most recent news story. In Malibu, California, there was a pretty rude taking advantage of people's situation going on with an Airbnb or a VRBO. Let's listen to that story. Let's go to dailymail.co.uk. I often go there. I don't know why. My spidey sense believes that anyone outside of the U.S. has a more unbiased opinion about the U.S. That could be completely in conflict of how the world really works, but they seem to be more unbiased, more objective. Someone prove me wrong. I'm still waiting for someone to comment anything, anywhere, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm just waiting for the miraculous moment that happens. So I like to look around at the different headlines and choose one, but it is really funny to me how they all sell their articles. I noticed that Fox News really oversold how terrifying, how scary, how wild this was. It was like terrifying, and other ones were more kind of medium neutral about this is just a fact. And it's just interesting if you look down a row of headlines, like how differently they tell the same story based on, I suppose, their audience base, right? So my Daily Mail one begins. The overall name is Horrifying Moment. Balcony packed with partygoers watching sunset collapse 15 feet onto rocks below at rented Malibu beach house, leaving 10 injured. And it has these bullet points. About 15 people were on the balcony when it collapsed and fell onto rocks below, leaving at least 10 injured. House had been rented for the weekend on Vrbo and had an official capacity of 6, but 30 were there. Owner had begged renters for 3 hours to reduce the number of people present, but they refused. So those are all the bullet points. Hilarious. And we'll go to the article. You can find it anywhere online. You can see the moment that they all fell. I guess it's going viral. The house had been rented on Vrbo for the weekend and had an official capacity of 6, but more than 30 people were at the birthday party, the owner said. Videos show the moment about 15 people plunged 10 to 15 feet to the ground when the balcony collapsed around 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, injuring 10. It was not immediately clear who will be liable for the incident, but fire crews have said the balcony was overcrowded. The owner has claimed that she rented the property on the understanding that no more than 6 would be there at one time. The owner begged the renter to send guests away when it became clear dozens had turned up. A witness told KCLA, which is a news person place in Los Angeles, "We heard a crack and I literally saw all my best friends and my girlfriend fall 15 feet to the rocks. The deck just literally gave out. It could have been a lot worse, but it's pretty awful." He added, "We were just chillin'. It was a birthday party. We were on the back deck and there were probably 10 people. 4 guests were taken to the hospital with moderate to serious injuries and 5 were treated at the scene. At least one person had their head bandaged. Another appeared to be limping as they left the scene. Everyone who fell was evacuated from the beach." The beach house owner, who declined to be identified, said she had heard about the party after she checked her surveillance cameras when a neighbor reported seeing dozens of people entering the property. She then repeatedly called the tenants over a period of 3 hours, asking them to reduce the number of people or leave the property, but they refused. The balcony collapsed less than 30 minutes after she ended a phone call, which she had recorded. She said she had been told only 5 people would be staying there and warned tenants they were not allowed to throw parties. The owner told NBC4 News she called the Lost Hills Sheriff's Station but was told it was a civil matter. Yikes, can you imagine just watching your home get trashed and destroyed and like, it's just not their problem. I bet if she was like, there's someone breaking into my house, they would have come. There's a brown person breaking into my house, they would have come even faster. I said that. Josh Duggar is breaking into my house holding the hands with a 15-year-old girl. They would have just let him get married and have 7 kids for over the course of the next 10 years. That's how that would have happened. Oh, God. I said that too. Hi. Okay. It says, LA County Fire Department spokesperson Ron Harrelson told KCAL the balcony had collapsed during a large social gathering. He said the deck was overcrowded. The worst part of this story, oh my God, it's unbelievable. Okay. People getting injured is obviously a bad part of the story, but those people shouldn't have been there. Like, they are responsible for their own behavior, but maybe they were lied to. Maybe the person throwing the party lied to them and said, oh no, I have permission. That's probably what happened. But anyway, the house has been declared uninhabitable by the fire department. Shards of glass, splintered wood, destroyed furniture deck litters the scene. And the homeowner said she felt the place had been vandalized, but added that her heart goes out to those hurt in the incident. That is so good of her to add that her heart goes out to those injured, because if my home had been declared uninhabitable from completely irresponsible, do not give a flying crap Airbnb Verbo guests, I would be beyond deranged amounts of furious. Like, just so you can have a party in my house, you ruined my life or ruined my home. Like, they cannot live in the home. They cannot go back to the home and live there. It's uninhabitable. I can't imagine. I've done Airbnb in the past, and I can't imagine if I had trusted people with my house that I could no longer live there. Oh my gosh. So a similar incident took place in Tennessee when an elevated deck outside a waterfront restaurant collapsed during a party. And only 2 were in critical condition, which is 2 more than this situation. I don't think anyone was in critical condition, which is so amazing because there were jagged rocks below this deck. More than 40 people were standing on a deck and posing for a picture outside of Zoe's restaurant, and about 17 miles outside of Chattanooga, when the wooden deck caved in. And some of the partygoers were trapped under the deck. One woman said she heard a cracking noise before the group fell about 2 stories, leaving her with a concussion and rib contusions. Wow. So all the people who are scared of like going over bridges, some people like hold their breath for good luck or something when they go over a bridge. We have something new to add to your list of fears. How's that sound? Good deal? There are so many people who are afraid of bridges. The possibilities are endless of the things you can be afraid of. This is what I recommend. You stop being so afraid of bridges and you swap them out. Start being afraid of decks collapsing. Because bridges pretty much do not just randomly collapse when you drive over them. It's like not really a thing. But decks collapsing is... Why do I keep saying collapsing? Collap. That's the sound that galloping hoofs make. Collap. Okay. Yeah, decks collapsing is definitely a thing. It might only be a 2-incident thing, but I'm sure it's not actually, and I am standing by this new held belief of mine. Thank you for your support. So believe it or not, we've once again run out of time. I always run out of time. Guys, I talk too much, but unfortunately that's my job, is literally talking. So am I talking too much, or am I just good at my job? I think we all know that I'm talking too much. Okay, so when we come back, we're going to talk about tic-tac-toe. We're going to talk about NASA bringing life to Mars, and the whales who control Wall Street, stock market, investing, etc. Turtle Island and the weirdest foods. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
And welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. I am your host, Moog, and we are going to start off some tic-tac-toe. Brought to you by user That Radical Foster Mom. We're going to learn a little something about foster care. Hold on to your high chairs.
Do you know that foster care is bad on purpose? It's literally bad on purpose. When I learned this, I wanted to flip a table. I'll read you a quote so you can flip tables too. This quote comes from The Lost Children of Wilder, The Epic Struggle to Change Foster Care by Nina Bernstein. It was a National Book Finalist. It's really well researched. I highly recommend it. So the quote: there has long been an iron rule in American social welfare policy. Conditions must be worse for the dependent poor than for anyone who works. The seldom acknowledged corollary is that the subsidized care of other people's children must be undesirable enough or scarce enough to play a role in the system of deterrence. In the late 19th century, charity reformer Josephine Shaw Lowell expressed this view when she insisted that, quote, the honest laborer should not see the children of the drunkard, quote, enjoy advantages which his own may not hope for. It's bad on purpose. It's bad as a deterrent. Is it bad because individuals are making it this way? No, it's bad because it's systemically bad. It's built this way.
Yikes. So the quote was, conditions must be worse for the dependent poor than for anyone who works. Wow. How does that apply to children? Children don't work. Children shouldn't be a pawn in that ideology. What? That's politics. Children should definitely not be used to prove anything politically. What? They should just have good lives. Are we kidding? Are we all drunk? So yeah, that's absolutely shocking. I'm blown away that this is an actual real quote, that the dependent poor should have worse lives than anyone working. Just to make a point, just to scare them off. But the fact is, being, quote, a dependent poor, it is not a choice. I don't care what anyone says. It is most often not a choice. Also, you may hear a rooster in the background. That's okay. Everything's fine. I'm in Vermont. It's where my family lives, but there are roosters. Last week, there were dogs howling. So because of that, I moved to a different house to record, and there are roosters crowing. So yeah, what were we saying? Yeah, it's not the choice of people to be, quote, dependent poor. If it is, well then, cry about it. There are people choosing to be dependent poor, but I know, for a fact, I know it is a very small minority of people choosing that. And I use the term minority just to mean few people. The population of America is 332 million people. Okay, there are not the majority of people doing anything even close to this concept. So here I am getting all triggered by this concept that just politically to manipulate people and cause fear and try to get them to act a certain way, they conceptually make sure that dependent people have much worse lives than working people. And again, I cannot say it enough. It is very, very rarely a choice to either be dependent poor or be working poor. It's not a choice. Have you ever heard of generational wealth, generational poverty, amongst other things? I won't even get into. I'm just mad about it. I'm mad about foster care purposely being worse to discourage people from being awful. I'm going to tell you, if I had a baby right now and I had a bad day and I ignored the baby for a week, the last thing in my mind would be, wow, the baby will have a worse life in foster care. I better behave as a parent. People end up in foster care not because the parents haven't thought things through enough, because crap happens. Stuff happens in life, and kids end up in foster care all the time. And the deterrent to make sure your kids don't end up in foster care certainly makes no logical sense. If those kinds of deterrents work, like we all know once you lose your kids, it's hard to get them back. We all know that if you're not good to your kids, you lose them. Like we all know that. It's just not a deterrent. It's been proven that the main deterrent to the things we don't want to happen is support, is before it happens. What is that even called? Preventative measures. We got it. We nailed it. Preventative measures. So support. If parents have drug addictions, we give them rehab, we give them therapy, we give them support. If parents have no money, we help them. We give them support. We help them find a job. We help them get childcare. We help them do everything. It's called support. It boggles the mind that we can show numbers, facts and figures, and it's not biased to one side. It's just facts and figures. that social programs, they are the things that prevent all this from happening, whether it's unwanted pregnancy, whether it's foster care, whether it's being in jail, any of those things. Social programs and support will literally prevent so many problems. And decriminalizing things, I don't think we should decriminalize child abuse, no way, but well, actually, if we decriminalize it, it just means it's not a crime or you don't go to jail. And maybe there again, support social programs. If you abuse your child, you have to go through a serious rehabilitation program and you're held accountable, but you aren't maybe put in jail for the rest of your life, and your kids maybe get their parent back someday once you've gone through the program. I don't know. That's a tough one. It's like, I don't trust people. Oh, if you're going to hurt your kid, can you be trusted with your kid after that? Again, I think preventative measures. So if you have kids, you get so much support that the things that cause child abuse, besides just you having a bad temper, will be more preventable. And if you just have a bad temper, why can't we give parents parenting classes? Why can't we give children and parents therapy that help them work through their issues before they engage in abuse? It's a pipe dream, and I sound really idealistic right now, and I know it. But the whole point was, let us help people not end up in jail for no reason if they have a joint on them when they get pulled over by a cop. Wow, this is getting super political. I feel like every week I get so political, and I try not to because I'm like, I'm just going to have a fun show. We're all going to get weird together. And then I'm like, foster care is a problem. Let's talk about it. Let's call our representatives. Should we call our representatives? I wouldn't even know how in this particular case. Always a Google search away. I don't think I'm going to call my representatives, but I am going to talk to you all about it. And if I changed one person's mind today, that maybe social systems and support is the way to go when we have a problem in society, then yay. If I've made someone even more mad and they're like, I'm doubling down on funding incarceration and funding terrible foster care programs, like anti-funding them, I guess that would be. They're not going to like get everyone around in a circle and be like, okay guys, it's going to be a really bad system. When the children cry, we're just going to ignore them. Yeah. Okay, no one's doing that. How many of you find this rant absolutely intolerable? I'm raising my hand because I find it intolerable. Like I need to say it for some reason, but I'm like, okay, move on. We are going to move on. Our next TikTok is even more fun and serious. It's about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Y'all heard of that? I'm sure you have. And this is brought to us by user Dr. Hanran.
Most of what you think you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs is wrong. This is the model that we all learned in Psych 101, where our basic physiological needs are at the bottom of the pyramid and achieving one's full individual potential is at the apex. What you may not have known is that Maslow spent 6 weeks with the Blackfeet First Nation in the summer of 1938. He learned about their worldview in the Blackfoot teepee, appropriated and misrepresented their perspective to establish his own Maslow's hierarchy, and then didn't give them credit. According to the Blackfoot teepee, self-actualization is at the bottom of the pyramid. In the middle, we have belonging and community actualization, where people take care of each other and help each other with their basic needs. Then at the top, we have cultural perpetuity, which is teaching each other how to live in harmony with the land and achieve community actualization through generations. It makes so much sense, right? Taking care of oneself is not enough. We have to take care of each other and our community. This is why we need to decolonize psychology.
Decolonize psychology. So you hear the word decolonize mostly in reference to indigenous peoples, but also anyone that has been colonized. So that would be, say, India has been colonized. Black people in America were colonized. I don't know if it's called colonized when you go to a country and steal people and then bring them back to a different country. That's a whole other thing that doesn't even fit into the word colonize, because you just go, okay, we're doing our culture now, not yours. Sorry about that. We're just white and better. So that's, colonizing. But I think this particular user is Native American, and so it kind of leans towards viewpoints that support Native American culture, which I have no problem with because, we did a number on them. And I say we because I'm just not Native American. So I just figure like anyone that's not Native American has done a number in this country. Even if you moved here from Germany 10 years ago, it's still you. No, I guess if you moved here from Germany, you're not American. So I can't blame you. I take that back. You're safe, new German Americans. I'm looking at this chart. It's a triangle, like the food pyramid. And we find at the bottom of the pyramid, which is the biggest portions, I think we just need the most of it in order to survive, is physiological needs, food, water, warmth, rest. Yeah, we probably need that the most. Yep, that makes sense. Above that, safety. Above that, belongingness and love. As long as we have food, water, warmth, and rest, we could not have love and still survive. Wow. Then above love, intimate relationships, belongingness is esteem needs. So prestige, feeling of accomplishment. So yeah, you could have food, water, rest, warmth, love, but still survive without feeling accomplished. Yes, survive is the word, not thrive. And above that, the top, self-fulfillment, actualization, achieving one's full potential. How many people ever achieve their full potential? Because think about it, when they study dolphins and they have some sort of echolocation in their brain, and they realize like, oh, humans technically kind of have similar things in their brain, but they just absolutely don't use it, not even a little bit. You're going to tell me that anyone reaches their full potential if they don't have echolocation? Not buying it. If you can't click at a wall and know how close it is to you, you have not reached your full potential. I call BS. Thanks. So according to the Blackfoot First Nation, they have a totally different concept of it. And Maslow was just like your typical jerky colonizer coming in and putting his own spin on their obviously very smart and very functioning concept of society. And he's just like, cool. So you have this cool concept of society. I'm going to take that, use it for evil. I don't know if it's evil to think that self-actualization doesn't matter, because essentially that's what Maslow says is self-actualization is a very small tip of the pyramid. You can live without it. You'll be fine. And the Blackfoot First Nation has that at the bottom of the pyramid, literally the thing you need the most of. So I'm just going to assume that means the Blackfoot First Nation has echolocation, because clearly they have reached their full potential. So yeah, self-actualization is in the bottom, community actualization is above that, and then cultural perpetuity is at the very top. And I don't even really know what that means. I could ask Google. What is cultural perpetuity?
Here's what I found.
And she brought me to an article about the same thing, about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the Blackfoot First Nation. It explains cultural perpetuity as something the Gixon people called the breath of life. Quote, "We have been given the ancestors' teaching and the feelings and the spirit. We can do a couple of things with that. We can say that what we know is inadequate and that we're not Indian enough and that we don't know enough about it or we don't want to pass it on. And we hold our breath and our people stop. Or you can nourish that breath. You can breathe in even deeper the knowledge of others and understand it at a deep level and then breathe it forward. That's the breath of life." And the Blackfoot call it cultural perpetuity. It makes sense. It's almost literal. So perpetuity meaning continuing forever and cultural meaning your beliefs and traditions. So it is rather a literal definition. So I don't think I'm a genius because I had to look that up. But, I looked it up because I wanted to be a little bit exacting about it. Little respect to the Blackfoot Nation, so I understand the Blackfoot First Nation, so I understand where we're coming from. I think the moral of this story is that cultural perpetuity isn't even on the Western concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that is so weird. Like, how weird are we as a culture that it's not even on our hierarchy of needs at all? Not there, just not there. So cool. We're doing it. We're just going to McDonald's and wearing tube socks. We don't even care what our people in our culture do. I personally don't feel like I have a lot of culture beyond like tube socks and McDonald's. Yeah, I said it. Hey, how you doing? We're moving on to user I am J Mist. One of my favorite things to do is things I don't understand. And let us begin.
Things that I don't understand, part one. The first thing I don't understand is the president paycheck. Who the hell pays the president? If you look it up, it says the U.S. Treasury, but who gave them the money and who decides how much he get paid anyway? Number two is credit. So you're going to tell me that if I don't have credit, I have to buy things and pay them off just so that in the future, if I want something that I can't buy, I'll have credit. I don't get it. Number three is poop smell. Why does poop smell? Because when we eat the food that we poop, the food smell good. So why does the poop stink? It don't make no sense. Number four is a mortgage. I know that's what you have when you pay a house, but who do you pay the mortgage to? And why does it sound like it costs like $1 trillion? Like, I just don't get it. Number 5 is laughing. I understand smiling, but you mean to say something provides you with so much joy, you smile and make a noise? Like, that's ugly. Where'd that come from? I don't understand. Number 6 is secondhand embarrassment. Like, if I see somebody fall, I feel the embarrassment. I shouldn't have those feelings. They're the ones that fail. I don't get it.
Oh my gosh, I love all of those so much. It's so good. It's so good. You're a genius, Jamist. So yeah, president paycheck. Yep, credit. Absolutely. I have a friend on Facebook this week who was like, I have bad credit. How do I get my credit better? The only way to get your credit better is to buy stuff and then pay it off so that you can buy stuff that you really want, that you really can't afford. It's insane. She's absolutely right. Poop smell. Yes. Thank you. Someone finally said it. We need to unpack poop smell. What is going on? Who invented that? Why does it stink? I think it stinks as a warning to be like, this is all the stuff we don't need in our body. Don't go near this. This is not food. Don't do this. But then if it smells so bad, then why do we use it as like fertilizer? And if you're supposed to stay away from it, why do we go near the stinky thing? I don't know. Mortgage. Weird. Yeah, I think by the time you're done paying a mortgage, I think you pay about, somehow magically you pay about double what your house is worth. I might be making this up, but I have recently looked and it's insane. If you buy a $300,000 house, you don't pay $300,000 for it. You pay something like $500,000 for it. I'm not exactly sure. I should look this up. But it's insane. It's insane how much you actually pay for that house in the end. She's right. Laughing? Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. What is laughing? That's probably the best one. For me, that's probably the best one. Like, what is laughing? Like, you enjoy something so much you just start making noises. What? I know other animals do it, so it's clearly just a universal thing. It's not special to humans. What is special to humans? Oh, I know. Hating things that are pointless to hate. No, that's not special to humans. I lied. We have run out of time. I'm going to be back. We're going to be talking about story time with Turtle Island, the other news articles I didn't get to because I'm slow, because I talk too much, but I'm literally paid to talk, so I can't complain. We're going to be talking about NASA, whales in investing, and weird foods. We'll be back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Moog, and they are mowing the lawn now. First it was roosters, and now they're mowing the lawn. Yay, Vermont. Bear with me. You're just going to hear all kinds of things. I wish I could just put myself in a bubble, but I can't. I'm in Vermont. At least cows are pretty quiet. I'm looking at a bunch of cows and some beautiful mountains. Hey, welcome to Vermont. Hey, if you want to talk to me and you want to follow us and be a part of the GSMC Weird News community, please follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. So it's GSMC_weird or GSMC_weird news. And that's on Twitter, the Weird News one. We can also be found on Facebook at the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News. And if you want to find me in particular, I'm Moog. My clown name, comedy name is Go Camel Toe, and I can be found at Instagram or TikTok at Go Camel Toe. And I really hear that lawnmower in the background, and I don't have any other time to do this. What am I supposed to do? This is a very large lawn they're about to mow. What do I do? I think I just have to keep talking. What a nightmare. You guys, I'm sorry. Okay, well, we're going to do it. We're going to brave this lawnmower together. Who is ready for some story time? We're going to talk about Turtle Island, and let's go. Coming at you with some information from the Canadian Encyclopedia. I guess they have a different one than America and Croatia, etc. Okay, the Canadian Encyclopedia, Turtle Island. For some Indigenous peoples, Turtle Island refers to the continent of North America. The name comes from various indigenous oral histories that tell stories of a turtle that holds the world on its back. For some indigenous peoples, the turtle is therefore considered an icon of life, and the story of Turtle Island consequently speaks to various spiritual and cultural beliefs. Turtle Island is the name many Algonquin and Iroquoian-speaking peoples, mainly in the northeastern part of North America, use to refer to the continent. In many indigenous origin stories, the turtle is said to support the world and is an icon of life itself. Turtle Island therefore speaks to various spiritual beliefs about the creation, and for some, the turtle is a marker of identity, culture, autonomy, and a deeply held respect for the environment. The story of Turtle Island varies among indigenous communities, but by most accounts, it acts as a creation story that places emphasis on the turtle as a symbol of life and earth. The following versions are brief reinterpretations of stories shared by indigenous peoples. In no way do these examples represent all variations of the tale. They merely seek to demonstrate general characteristics and plots of different stories. In some Ojibwe oral traditions, the story of Turtle Island begins with a flooded earth. And side note, Ojibwe includes Chippewa, Ojibwe, Ojibwa. There's different pronunciations. And also, I believe they're also called Chippewa. I think they're all synonyms for the same thing. Side note. And when I asked Google, this is what she said.
Ojibwe.
Thank you. So we were saying that it's the flooded earth. The Creator had cleansed the world of feuding peoples in order to begin life anew. Some animals survived the flood, such as the loon, the muskrat, and the turtle. Nanabush, a supernatural being who has the power to create life in others, was also present. Nanabush asked the animals to swim deep beneath the water and collect soil that would be used to recreate the world. One by one, the animals tried, but one by one they failed. The last animal that tried, the muskrat, was underwater for a long time, and when it resurfaced, the little animal had wet soil in its paws. The journey took the muskrat's life, but the creature did not die in vain. Nanabush took the soil and put it on a willing turtle's back. This became known as Turtle Island, the center of creation. And please forgive me, I will probably be pronouncing a lot of things wrong, but I'm trying my best. Moving on to many Haudenosaunee versions of the tale start in the sky world, a land in the heavens where supernatural beings existed. One day, a pregnant sky woman fell through a hole under the roots of a tree and descended to earth. Gently guided down by birds that saw her falling through the sky, she was placed safely onto a turtle's back. Sky Woman was grateful to the animals for helping her. In some versions, her appreciation was so powerful that the earth began to grow around her, forming Turtle Island. In other versions, the animals brought forth mud from the bottom of the water, which grew on top of Turtle's back, and formed a new land for Sky Woman and her descendants, Turtle Island. Scholars tend to describe tales like Turtle Island as earth diver myths, stories that in some way connect the origin of the world to beings, often animals, that dove into ancient waters to retrieve soil used to recreate or create the world as we know it. Such tales also often involve the presence of supernatural beings, such as transformers or tricksters, and a creator. Did you know not all indigenous creation stories feature a turtle? In many Northwest Coast indigenous cultures, Raven features prominently in origin tales. According to the Haida, for example, Raven created Haida Gwai and brought light into the world. Sedna, the ocean spirit whose fingers created all the sea creatures, is central to the Inuit creation stories. For some Innu people, it is Kukatshua, Wolverine, that made land out of rocks and mud. Creation stories may not always feature animals and are not always about the origins of the land. Sometimes these tales speak about how all life forms came to be, or about how humans learned valuable life lessons. Colonization and reclamation. Settlers' renaming of Turtle Island to North America is reflective of the Anglicization, which is the modification of non-English words into English, of indigenous place names and stories. In recent times, indigenous activists have made efforts to reclaim traditional names. For example, in 2016, the Ogima Mikana project began by writer Hayden King and artist Susan Blight in 2013, as part of the Idle No More movement, prompted the reintroduction of Ojibwe place names in Toronto streets. Activists put stickers bearing the Ojibwe names of various roads on signs. Spadina Road temporarily became Ishpadina. Davenport Road became Geta Onegaming. Sorry. And so on. Reclamation is not an easy process. Besides the involvement of various levels of government on the official renaming of any location, Indigenous peoples are not always in agreement about place names. For example, the Stoney Nakoda have proposed reclaiming Calgary to Wishuspa Oyada, but Siksika, who also claims the area, instead prefers their own term. Oh gosh, here I go. Mokinstis aka piosis. That's the best I can do. Despite such debates, reclamation efforts continue. In the case of Turtle Island, the term and origin story have found their way into various sectors of Canadian society. For example, some Indigenous and non-Indigenous organizations have adopted the term as part of their official name or the name of their programming, such as Turtle Island News and the Toronto Zoo Turtle Island Conservation Program. The story of Turtle Island has found its way into school curricula and texts. Turtle Island Reads, a Montreal initiative sponsored by McGill University and the local CBC, provides Canadians with stories about Indigenous peoples by Indigenous peoples. In 2018, the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, in partnership with various First Nations, released the Indigenous Peoples Atlas of Canada. The atlas re-envisions the map of Canada, using traditional place names, territorial boundaries, and stories to direct their design, such as that of Turtle Island. And that's all they wrote. I want to read a few more articles and listen to something that has inspired this story for me. I actually, again, no shock here, heard a TikTok about this, and I'm shocked that in all my years, I never heard that a lot of Indigenous peoples called North America Turtle Island. And I will post a couple pictures of Turtle Island, because when you look at it from underneath the water, like the land and then the water line and then underneath the water, it's a really fascinating artistic interpretation of an island growing atop a turtle's back. And then if you look down flat on the map, just looking down, they also outline why people say it looks like a turtle. But the most interesting question to me is, how did they know the outline of the earth, of North America? How did they know the outline of North America looked like a turtle? But according to all the things I've seen, they did know. I looked at a YouTube video starring Jacob Wawate, and he is a Native American, very wise person. I don't know what his position would be, but he's a historian. He's full of knowledge. I can post a little clip on Instagram of him drawing the Native American concept of North America and what he was taught. And it does look like a turtle. He says it's slightly tilted. So the west coast is kind of up, and then the east coast is kind of down. And that also does represent all the mountains, all the high elevations are in the west. And so yeah, that does represent that as well, interestingly enough. So I can post a little clip of him drawing that map, which is genuinely interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, that's what I want to know, is how did the Native Americans all together, and of course not all of them, but all these different Indigenous people who did believe that it looked like a turtle, which is not everyone. And then again, the other people, how did they all decide what the outline of their land looked like if they weren't, exploring every single square inch of the United States, of North America, of Turtle Island? That's fascinating to me. I'm going to Google it. Let's do it. Okay, I found a cool YouTube video by A New Breed, American Indian Folklore. That's the channel, and it tells about Turtle Island. Now, I think the narration is a lovely Native American person who has quite a droll voice. So let's listen to a little bit of it, and then maybe I'll just explain the rest, because it explains a little bit more in detail where this woman falling through this hole came from and what that's all about. So let's listen.
Long before the world was created, there was an island floating in the sky, upon which the sky people lived. They lived quietly and happily. No one ever died or was born or ever experienced sadness. However, one day one of the sky women realized she was going to give birth to twins. She told her husband, who flew into a rage. In the center of the island, there was a tree which gave light to the entire island since the sun had not been created yet. He tore up this tree, creating a huge hole in the middle of the island. Curiously, the woman peered into the hole. Far below, she could see the waters that covered the earth. At that moment, her husband pushed her in. She fell through the hole, tumbling towards the waters below. Water animals already existed on the earth. So far below the floating island, two birds saw the sky woman fall. Just before she reached the waters, they caught her on their backs and brought her to the other animals. Determined to help the woman, they dove into the water to get mud from the bottom of the seas. One after another, the animals tried, and they failed. Finally, a little toad tried, and when he reappeared, his mouth was full of mud. The animals took it and spread it on the back of the big turtle. The mud began to grow and grow until it became the size of what we call North America. Then the woman stepped onto the land. She sprinkled dust into the air and created the stars. Then she created the moon and sun. The sky woman gave birth to twin sons. She named one Sapling. He grew to be kind and gentle. She named the other Flint, as he was as cold as his name. They quickly grew and began filling the earth with their creations. Sapling created what was good. He made animals that are useful to humans. He made rivers that went two ways, and into those he put fish without bones. He made plants that people could easily eat. If he was able to do all the work himself, there would be no suffering. Flint destroyed much of Sapling's work and created all that is bad. He made rivers that flow in only one direction. He put bones in fish and thorns on berry bushes. He created winter. But since Sapling gave it life, that it could go away and make way for spring, he created monsters his brother drove deep into the earth. Eventually, Sapling and Flint decided to fight till one conquered the other. Neither was able to win at first, but finally, Flint was beaten. Because he was a deity, Flint could not die, so he was forced to live on the big turtle's back. And to this day, occasionally, you can still feel his anger whenever you feel the volcanoes erupt.
Again, that is A New Breed, Anubreed, on YouTube. And I personally find that narration to be pretty boring, and I'm sorry. Honestly, like, it's a great story, a great culture, a great channel. The narration is boring. I said it. It's very monotone, like this. Maybe that's how I talk and I just don't realize it. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I can criticize someone else and also not be perfect, right? Like, there's no rules that I have to be a perfect narrator. Because I'm not. I'm not. That's all I'll say. So, thank you for that story. That was great. And it's obviously a lot of overlapping of what I already said. I did want it told through a real Native American's voice and words. So that was important to me to not just be the person relaying the message, the colonizer relaying the message. But yeah, so that was important to me. And so we live on Turtle Island, you guys, apparently. The one thing that's cool about what we just heard was it's the kind of the Star Wars thing. Everyone says the same thing about Star Wars. And it's not about Star Wars, but it was perhaps the catalyst for the discussion in mainstream media, where there's always dark and light, good and evil. And it seems to be consistent through so many cultures that have never heard of each other, lived near each other. They've never spoken to each other. So why do so many cultures have the concept of good and evil, dark and light, bad and good? I already said that. It almost seems like you can't tell a story, any kind of origin story, without the good and the evil fighting each other. And if there is an origin story that has no good or evil, dark or light, then I would be shocked. I want to hear it. Maybe I should just Google it myself. I'm not going to. So I think we owe it to the people who are the First Nations of this land to know the story of Turtle Island. I don't know how many of them call it Turtle Island, how many of them have a similar origin story, but it's more than one. It's certainly more than one. And again, I'll go back to like absolutely mind blown that they knew this shape of North America because they were so spread out. There was not one tribe walking the perimeter of North America. That wasn't happening. So it's truly a fascinating result. Like, how do they know? How do they know? Before we had math, geography, etc. How do they know? There's a different kind of wisdom that I will never really understand. It could be generational cultural wisdom. It could be as simple as that, where yet another thing to Google, how do they know? But we don't have time for that. We have officially run out of time on this segment. And I will be posting these pretty cool pictures of what North America / Turtle Island looked like to Native American minds when they would draw it, when they would talk about it. And I will be posting that on Instagram. So come take a look. It's pretty cool stuff. We'll be back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back once again. I am your host, Moog, at the GSMC Weird News Podcast. We're going to get started. How was the show for you so far? You did it. You muscled through. You powered through. We did it. We're going to be talking about Mars. We're going to be talking about weird food. We're going to be talking about whales. I don't know if we'll have time. I always think I have so much time, and I run out because I'm a talker. But that works. I've said it before. So let's talk about NASA first. NASA might have accidentally brought life to Mars. I have an article from Audi.com. NASA may have accidentally brought life to Mars. From May 2021. Martian life may have originated in a moldy corner of your bathroom. We've seen many kinds of Martians in speculative fiction over the years. They've been little green men, slightly bigger gray aliens, something that gets killed by a flu virus, and any other number of incomprehensible life forms. But that's all just fiction. Everybody knows there's nothing actually living on Mars, right? Well, we haven't found any native Martian life yet, but according to at least one scientist, we may have unintentionally brought life to Mars. According to Christopher Mason, a professor of genomics, physiology, and biophysics at Cornell University, there's a chance that some form of terrestrial life has traveled to Mars on exploration equipment. In a recent opinion piece, he writes that it may even learn to live on the red planet. Quote, microbes could potentially hitchhike their way to Mars, even after radiation and sterilization procedures. Their genomes may change so much that they look truly otherworldly. We've actually already seen that happen. Bacteria found on the International Space Station had changed enough in genetic structure that it could have fooled someone into believing that it was from outer space. Whoa, you guys. And maybe that's like what we are. We're some other person's microbes and bacteria. And once you put some other person's microbes and bacteria on some other person's planet, or being's planet, it adapts to that planet. So we're just some other person's adapted, mutated microbes. Weird. We are seriously getting into some weird news right now. The article continues, if these types of species were found in the Martian soil, it could potentially spark misguided research into the universal features of life, or Martian life. Of course, the smart people at NASA are aware that there might be some tiny stowaways on their equipment. That's why everything launched to Mars goes through a rigorous cleaning and sterilization process. Everything that goes into space, including Perseverance, the latest Mars rover, is built in a clean room. These rooms have strict controls on the atmosphere and biological contamination, including air filters and sterilized gowns for employees. NASA personnel build space equipment in these labs one layer at a time, like an onion, says Mason. Every layer is painstakingly cleaned before the next one is laid down on top of it. However, there is no such thing as a completely sterile environment. No matter how much you try, NASA can't keep every single bacterium, virus, or spore from getting on their fancy gadgets. That means that NASA's safe room procedures are less about complete elimination of life, and instead, more about restricting it. An ideal piece of space gear has no more than a few hundred particles per square foot. Unfortunately, according to Mason, the clean rooms might actually be doing the opposite that they're supposed to. Sure, their sterilization measures might kill 99.9% of all organisms, but it's the remaining 0.1% that's the problem. Not only can these organisms survive the cleaning process, but they might actually come out stronger. It turns out that the clean rooms might serve as an evolutionary selection process for the hardiest bugs that then may have a greater chance of surviving a journey to Mars. It makes sense. If some bacteria or fungi can survive the radiation, freezing, and who knows what else that NASA throws at them, why couldn't they survive in space as well? It's like those little, what are they called? If I had to come up with a name off the top of my head, I'd say like carcinomes or trichoderbs. I'm going to ask Google. Tardigrades? Is that it? I'm gonna Google it. Oh my god, I got it on the second try. Tardigrade, known colloquially as water bears or moss piglets. They are these magical water bears. We've heard about them, right? They can survive through freezing and millions of years, and they never die. So I think tardigrades are, you know what? It could be what they're saying. Like, it's our thing, but it morphed and it made it seem like it's from space. Or it could be a space thing, and it morphed, and it seems like it's ours. Pyramids, anyone? Those pyramids are definitely morphed microbes. Those are definitely not the people things. Okay. Moving on with the article. I'm sorry. So where we left off was, what if they survive in space too? What's the big issue? What if some kind of a mold made it to Mars on the Perseverance? Well, first of all, it might waste money. Imagine the excitement if scientists suddenly thought they found an actual Martian fungus. They would then spend millions, probably billions, to get the sample back to Earth to study. And then they find out, oops, this is just your regular bathroom mold that somehow made it through outer space. Mason argues that if we do find some form of life on Mars, there's already a very good chance that we brought it there in the first place. Quote, ever since the first 2 Soviet probes landed on the Martian surface in 1971, followed by the U.S. Viking 1 lander in 1976, there likely have been some fragments of microbial and maybe human DNA on the red planet. An even bigger issue could rear its head in the case of an eventual manned Mars mission. Quote, microbes carried into space can also be of more immediate concern to astronauts, posing a risk to their health and perhaps even causing life-supporting equipment to malfunction if they become gummed up with colonies of microorganisms. Help from fungi. It's not all bad, though. While microbes may be dangerous for life support equipment, they could also make life easier for future Mars explorers. Mason argues that if or when mankind lands on Mars, we will inevitably bring with us all manners of bacteria and spores. These microbes, too, will likely adapt, mutate, and change, and we can learn from them, too. They may even make life on Mars more tolerable for those who go there, since the unique genomes adapting to the Martian environment could be sequenced back to Earth for further characterization, and then utilized for therapeutics and research on both planets. As long as space radiation or some weird Mars stuff doesn't transform the microbes into some kind of man-eating superbacteria first, that is. What a creepy thought. And that is the article. Cool. So many things I've never thought about. No, there's a picture of a little robot, and it says, Houston, I am contaminated. How clever. So that is the article, and we're about to destroy the world with our bacteria and microbes. Cool! Moving on to the weirdest foods. Who's ready? And yet another article from Audi.com. We're going to start 20 of the truly weirdest foods you've ever marketed. Do you hear the rooster? Should I redo this take? I'm not going to. You're welcome. Free rooster noises. Taste change. We all know this from looking at old pictures. Okay, rooster, I hear you. We change our hairstyles, clothing choices, and even the food we like. Styles and trends evolve with time, often for the better. Think about some of the clothes and haircuts that were actually popular at one time. For example, this is my example, flock of seagulls. So let's get started. Oh my god. I hear you, rooster. Number 1, ham and bananas hollandaise. You read this right. Bananas coated in lemon juice wrapped with mustard-slathered boiled ham slices and baked in the oven. This dish is topped off with luxurious hollandaise sauce made from powdered mix. This masterpiece of the 1970s came from McCall's Great American Recipe Card Collection. Wow. 2, deviled lettuce salad. Sounds simple enough, right? Maybe like a wedge salad you would find in a steakhouse today? Think again. This gem from the 1960s is loaded with weird flavors and combinations. The recipe was brought to the public by Miracle Whip and contains instructions on filling half a head of iceberg lettuce with a mixture of Miracle Whip, cream cheese, canned deviled ham, chopped onion, chopped green pepper, and pimento. Barf. Barf, 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 dude. Just no way. 3, Celery Victor. This recipe comes from Betty Crocker as part of a calorie counter collection. Barf. There are actually 2 versions, one using fresh and one using canned celery hearts. I've literally never even heard of canned celery hearts. Have you? Each serving weighs in at a whopping 25 calories. The ingredients: celery, water, 1 beef bouillon cube, low-calorie Italian salad dressing, and pimento. The dish is literally celery boiled in beef-flavored water. Barf. What in the world? Number 4, anything in gelatin. The 1670s were riddled with savory and sweet dishes with gelatin. People loved making even the simplest delicious foods, quote, better by molding them in gelatin. Examples: jellied tomato refresher, a combination of tomato juice, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, green pepper flakes, lemon juice, garlic, and cloves, all brought together by gelatin. Did I mention this is a dessert? Barf. Tuna fish mold. Oh my God, I'm seeing a picture. This recipe came from A1 steak sauce and involved blending tuna, mayo, celery, peppers, and A1 steak sauce, mixing it with water and gelatin to form a beautifully jiggly tuna fish, ideally in the fish-shaped mold. I'm gonna barf. I'm literally... Oh my God. Lime cheese salad. Whoever thought of mixing lime jello with onion and vinegar thought it was a good idea, decided to add cottage cheese and mayonnaise. Oh, I have to stop. I'm gonna throw up. Silhouette salad. It's a chicken ring dish to appeal to ladies trying to keep their figures in check. It involves gelatin mixed with canned cream of chicken and shredded turkey or chicken, adding chopped onions and peppers. Oh my God, this is so horrible. It's like horrific. This is worse. I would rather watch some sort of horrific horror film. This is horrific. Apples stuffed with prawns, number 8. Let's see. Then someone thought this strange seafood salad should be served inside hollowed apples. They combine apples, lemons, mayonnaise. You lost me at mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise, but with apples and lemons, you lost me. Olives, tobacco sauce. Is that supposed to say Tabasco sauce? Pickles, tomato paste, and shrimp. Oh my God. People were insane. We're insane right now. To think we were more insane at one point than we are right now. Unthinkable. 9. A Torah cup steak pudding. It's a novelty item with tasty bites and with no leftovers, and you prepare just the right quantity. These steak pudding cups are made from steak and a Torah. I don't know what a Torah... Oh, it's shredded fat that surrounds the kidney. This is really a steak kidney pudding covered in a paste of flour and water, then steamed to perfection. How did I not know a Torah was fat around the kidney, aka shredded suet? I'm at the point in this list where I just want to go home. I want to go home and never know that this is part of life. 10. Baloney cake. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's no surprise there. They do all kinds of things with bologna. It's layered bologna with mixture of cream cheese, Worcestershire sauce, onion. The outside is frosted with cheese mixture. Barf. The cake is decorated around the outside with canned spray cheese and served with crackers and crusty bread. People just hate food. People get all this food and they're like, how can we just tell this food we hate it? Tell this food we hate it without telling this food we hate it. You make a bologna cake. Next, number 11, liver sausage pineapple. It appeared in 1952, and it is decorated to look like a pineapple. It is a full pound of liver sausage mixed with lemon juice, again, Worcestershire sauce, and mayonnaise in the shape of a pineapple. Why is everything Worcestershire sauce and mayonnaise? They were confused. It's frosted with yellow gelatin and mayo, scored with decorative olives and pimentos to make it look pineapple-y. Oh my God. And the author of the cookbook suggests topping it off with real pineapple fronds and serving this delightful appetizer with coffee. What? You just so you actually have a pineapple. You don't use the pineapple. You just chop the fronds, the head off the pineapple, and stick this on this. But meanwhile, you don't use the pineapple. This is a case of insanity. Like, if I wanted to take someone to court to prove them insane and incompetent, I would take this recipe and say, Judge, they made this recipe. And the judge would go, yes, ma'am, this person is insane. 12, Spam Fiesta peach cups. I don't want this. And I don't want to read it. It's made by Hormel to bring, quote, California sunshine to winter meals. It's ground Spam, rolled oats, milk, ketchup, and mustard rolled into balls. The balls are then placed into halved peaches and broiled. Why do people do this to food? This is disgusting. I don't know if I have it left in me to keep going. Okay, 13. Hot Dr. Pepper. It's an ad from the 1960s. Shows a snowman happily enjoying a warm mug of soda. The recipe is just to warm it up and pour lemon slices over it. Yeah, so the recipe is warm it up. Wow, what a recipe. 14 through 17, food trees. Wow, I can't handle this. Food trees. It's a delightful centerpiece attraction. You make trees using styrofoam wire, parsley, other leafy herbs, and the ornaments attached to the trees with toothpicks. Wow, I'm seeing a picture here. I feel bad for you because you're not. You literally, with styrofoam, toothpicks, etc., make a tree. Like, make a tree. You slap on some shrimp, some salami, some leafy things, and you make something to look like a tree. Something we don't need. Something we could live without. Something I'm ashamed of. Is this what we're saying? Is this white culture? Is this what it is? Is this my culture? I know that, like, I've taken credit for tube socks and McDonald's, but do I also have to take credit for this bad food as a white person? I think I do. 18, food candles. What? There's no shortage of recipes that are shaped and act like candles and candle holders. I actually didn't know that. One is from the 1960s, and it's a mixture of cranberry and mayonnaise mixed with gelatin, barf. I am looking at a picture and you are not, and imagine a slice of pineapple with a hole cut out in the middle. And in that middle, where the hole is cut out, is a banana. Just stuck in there. And what did they put on top of the banana? Whipped cream that's sliding all down it. Wow. Like, how is this real? There's whipped cream sliding down the shaft of the banana that is stuck into the pineapple ring. Moving on rapidly. 19, tuna and pear pizza. Not so bad. I mean, I've heard of worse. It's made from a sauce containing a combination of tuna and pears. Okay, it's a sauce with tuna and pears. I've changed my mind. If it's pizza with, like, some fish here and some fruit there, it's not that big of a deal. But if it's a sauce of tuna and pears, I'm against it already. It's topped with pickle, walnuts, and anchovies. Double against it. Not necessary. This doesn't need to happen. We don't need to live this way. And number 20, creamed eggs and corned beef crust. Nah, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. I'm looking at it and it's, like, not necessary, but not nearly as unnecessary as the last one, tuna and pear pizza, because of the tuna and pear sauce. That's what does it for me. Okay, the crust is made from white bread and corned beef. The filling is a mixture of mushroom soup, cream, and hard-boiled eggs. Need we say more? You do not need to say more. We have officially run out of time, so we'll talk about whales and investing next week, maybe. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts. Click that subscribe and like button. Write a nice review. Do what you can. Keep us going. I have been your host, Moog, and please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I will see you next week.